participants. We'll be looking at the feeding principles in ruminant animals generally. But for this particular unit, we'll be looking at nutrient requirements and feeding of ruminants. I remain your facilitator, Professor Isaac Sammani Butswat. Just like any living thing, these animals need food to survive, and particularly some specific nutrients. We'll get to know more about this. Relax and enjoy yourself and have a good time. Welcome. In this unit, as I said, we'll be running through nutrient requirements and feeding of ruminant animals. By way of introduction, all animals have dietary nutrient levels at which they exhibit optimal performance, either for production or maintenance. This is what is referred to as the nutrient requirement of the animal, and it is a function of age, type of animal, size of animal, and production. All the nutrients, namely energy, protein, fat, lipid, vitamins, minerals, and water, have specific functions in the animal. All of the mentioned nutrients, two of utmost importance, they constitute the bulk. These are energy and protein, which will be discussed in more details, more than the others in this unit. By way of objectives, by the end of this unit, you should be able to discuss the nutrient requirements of beef and dairy cattle, enumerate the nutrient requirements for sheep, explain the different requirements for goats. Main text, energy and protein requirements for cattle. There are two types of cattle, namely beef and dairy cattle. Energy and protein are needed by the animal for both activities as physical, metabolic, and physiological, or for maintenance. For beef production, in addition to maintenance, the animal require energy to deposit flesh, whereas dairy cattle require more energy for pregnancy and production of milk. A mature cow with an average weight of about 300 to 400 kg will require about 150 to 250 grams digestible crude protein on daily basis. It will also require 6 to 11 megacalorie of metabolizable energy for maintenance. If the cow is lactating, it will require an additional 40 to 45 kg of DCP and about 1.2 to 1.3 mcal of metabolizable energy. For pregnancy, the same cow will require about 290 grams DCP and 12.4 mcal ME. Generally, cow must not be fed less than 2.5 to 3% of daily dry matter content of their body weight. Energy and protein requirements of sheep. The nutrient requirement in sheep and goats appear very similar except for dairy goats and sheep kept for wool. Sheep and goat consume 3 to 5% dry matter of their body weight per day. A growing lamb of 5 to 40 kg live weight will consume dry matter about 3 to 4% of the body weight. Such a lamb will require a daily digestible crude protein of 33 to 67 gram digestible crude protein, or 18 to 21.5% of the daily ration. It will also require about 0.65 to 2.5 mcal ME. Fatteners require an average dry matter intake of about 5% of their body weight, about 52 to 80 gram of digestible protein, or 12 to 13% of dry matter intake. They will also require 1.47 to 2.92 mcal ME. For the early gestation period, about 15 weeks, the dry matter intake should not be more than 2.5 to 3% of body weight, with daily crude protein of 9 to 100 gram, or about 7.5 to 8.2% of the dry matter intake. In the last 6 weeks of gestation, the dry matter intake should be about 3 to 4% of the body weight, while the crude protein requirement at this stage is about 8 to 10% of the dry matter intake. Energy and protein requirement of goats. There are different energy and protein needs of growth for growth and production in goats. Growing kids of goats require about 18 to 21% crude protein and about 2.5 to metabolizable energy. These requirements decrease as kids grow in body weight. The crude protein need may be as low as 10% of the dry matter intake, while the energy is 2.16 mg. The bulk will require about 8 to 11% crude protein and about 1.5 to 2.3 ME. The pregnant doe will require dry matter intake of about 4% body weight. It will also need 8 to 10% crude protein of the dry matter intake and 2 to 2.5% ME. Mineral requirement. Minerals are organic and inorganic compounds that play vital roles in the metabolic and other physiological development of animals. They are classified as macro and micro. The macro minerals include calcium, phosphorus, magnesium, sodium, potassium, and chlorine. Micro minerals are iron, copper, cobalt, iodine, zinc, molybdenum, selenium, fluorine, sulfur, and chromium. The requirement of macro minerals are expressed in gram per day or in percentage, whereas the micro ones are in parts per million, ppm. Minerals must be adequately supplied to the animal to prevent mineral deficiency nutritional diseases. Calcium and phosphorus must be well supplied in the cattle, sheep, and goats ration for bone development and milking. Beef cattle require about 0.24% calcium and 0.22% phosphorus in their diet. Dairy cattle will require about 0.28% calcium and 0.25% phosphorus. Pregnant cattle will require 0.23% calcium and 0.23% phosphorus. Sheep and goats require 0.23% calcium and 0.23% phosphorus in their diets. Sources of calcium and phosphorus in the diets of the ruminants are bone meal, oyster shell, and dicalcium phosphate. Salt is given to ruminant as salt lick, either as a form of block or by pouring some little quantity in the feeding trough to supplement what the animal must have taken from other feed ingredients. Class activity. State the daily crude protein need of a dairy cattle. Number 2. Why is the nutrient requirement of dairy animal higher than that of beef cattle? 3. List the energy need of a growing lamb and a buck. 4. What is the difference between maintenance and production energy requirements? Conclusion. In this unit, the nutrient requirements of cattle, sheep, and goats were given for the different ages. By way of summary, below are the summary of what you have learned in this unit. First, there is an amount of nutrient required for maintenance and production. Secondly, cattle require 2.5 to 3% of their body weight as dry matter intake. 3. Sheep and goats require 3 to 5% of their body weight as dry matter intake. 4. The protein and energy need of dairy or lactating animal is higher than for non-lactating animals. Further reading references: Cheswood 1992 and Renjan 1980. Thank you.